Picture this. Tropical cyclone Alfred smashing the outside. Trees waving like feathers in the breeze, but moaning like despairing spirits. There hasn't been power for a couple of days, so the fridge is off. And I'm sitting on the sofa with candlelight in the room, though I have to admit I was reading with a torch because I value my retinas. A bottle of red wine on the table because the red doesn't need refrigeration. And a box of chocolates from Switzerland open in front of me because why not? There's nothing else to do. What would you be reading on that sofa? Would you be reading Once Upon a Midnight Dreary while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore? Or would you be reading a wonderful, gothy, romancy thriller by Steffanie Holmes? Well, inside this wonderful, gothic-y, incredibly fun little story, you have got a gigantic bookstore, so catnip to any readers, and a beautiful, beautiful volume with glittery bits that shine in the candlelight, as well as a couple of fun extras. This will be going on my next laptop, by the way, of kooky, spooky romance. Well, I don't know about the kooky, and only a little bit of spooky, but it is an awful lot of fun. So anyone who thinks that a book that's set in a bookshop is some version of heaven, and anyone who thinks that a second-hand bookshop is even better than a first-hand bookshop, well, Nevermore Bookshop in the small town of something that I have forgotten. What is it called? Aglon? Maybe, something like that. Village is somewhere in England. And to the small village of Argelon and the new and not particularly enticing flat of her mother, Mina has unfortunately had to return from New York. 4 years ago, she graduated from, I'm going to assume, high school, and realized her dream by getting a scholarship and an internship with a major fashion house in New York. She went there with her best friend, whose name I've forgotten once again. That's so annoying. Tiffany? Something like Tiffany or Apple or something. Ashley. That's it. Ashley. Mina and her best friend Ashley, who'd been friends through school, went to New York. They spent 4 years interning for what's Mina's dream position in the fashion house. And there's lots of little cute fashion-y bits and pieces of things that they either bought from major fashion labels but second-hand shops. I think Vivienne Westwood is mentioned more than once. And other quirky type fashion like true fashionistas will get from second-hand clothes shopping. At the end of the 4 years, there was one permanent position for one intern. And Mina looked like being top-notch to get it because she was good at what she did. She was dedicated. While her friend Ashley was out there becoming an influencer and an Instagrammer and partying, Mina was working hard. And it looked as if she was a sure thing to get that internship. No, she was at the end. It looked like a sure thing for her to progress from internship to full-time job, her dream job. And then she tripped a few times. And when she went to a doctor, she found out that she has a congenital condition that will eventually cause blindness. I can't remember the name of it. Retina pigmentosa, I think. It's an actual real disease which I have heard of before. But I haven't bookmarked the place where it is mentioned. So it's a degenerative condition where at first you start to lose the peripheral vision, which is why Mina tripped and didn't see things a few times. But then slowly the outside occludes and your vision becomes a sort of tunnel vision, and then it winks out and you're blind. This was an excellent plot device for Mina because in a gothic-y, romancy, horror-y type book, you have to have a hot protagonist, as Mina is apparently hot, though all this book is from inside her own head, and she doesn't spend a lot of time thinking about what she looks like, which is nice. But the fact that she's got this ongoing blindness condition that will get worse makes her a much more interesting protagonist than if she'd just been hot and wonderful at anything. Now, back in this town, she needs a job, and she sees an ad for a job in the bookshop that had been her beloved refuge all of her youth, when, of course, she was the outsider at school and she got teased and she read a lot. The advertisement reads, "Wanted, assistant shelf stacker, general dog's body to work in second-hand shop. Must be fluent in classical literature, detest electronic books and all who indulge them, and have experience answering inane customer questions for 8 hours straight. Cannot be allergic to dust or cats. If I had to choose between you and the cat, you will lose. Hard work, terrible pay, apply within at Nevermore Bookshop." And basically, for many of us readers, that ad alone is probably enough that we're jumping up and down going, me, pick me. And that sets the tone for this, a gigantic second-hand bookshop over multiple stories and a dedicated reader. And it's written by someone who is so clearly a dedicated reader herself. You've got nods to Agatha Christie, Conan Doyle, Edgar Allan Poe, Jane Austen. The Brontes are everywhere in there, just throughout. It's a pleasure to read for anyone who themselves loved books growing up and read them all. And it's got an edge to it because the spooky side of this is that when Mina goes to apply, the guy who owns the bookshop is no longer old Mr. Simmons, whom she remembers from her childhood, but a young, brooding, dark Heathcliff. I am not kidding you. Heathcliff owns the shop, and he tells her never to go up to the top story where he lives, but he's got roommates. The first roommate she meets early on, his name is Maury, short for Moriarty. He is young, vivacious, flirty, and communicative in a way whereas Heathcliff is dark, brooding, and grunts a lot. And to make the bookshelf even more perfect, there's an actual raven who flies around. Mina's a bit worried about this raven. She thinks she can hear someone talking, and a few times she suspects she can hear the raven talking. But Moriarty and Heathcliff assure her that she's being silly. Now, later on, another even more gorgeous young man, Quaff, appears, and just as Mina is starting to settle into the bookshop vibe, she's actually made it upstairs, she's met all the inhabitants, and then, da-da, the tragedy and mystery starts when Mina's friend from New York, Ashley, has also come back to the village and is found stabbed dead in front of the sociology section. Fate worse than death for an influencer, I'm sure. Anyway, this is completely fun. A lot of gothic-y, beautiful books with romance and glittery letters might take themselves too seriously, but at no point does Steffanie Holmes take herself too seriously. I feel that Mina as a character gets an extra edge from Steffanie herself, who is apparently legally blind. She's on the internet, you can see her pages, you can see her posts, she's got YouTube as well. She herself is legally blind and an author. Apparently she too lost her dream job, which I believe was archaeologist, because she couldn't see things anymore. So Mina has got that real edge, without which a character in something so light-hearted can often feel superficial or completely unreal. In many ways, this is completely unreal. It is pure fun to read, and it doesn't take itself seriously, like I said. For all that it doesn't take itself seriously, and for all that it is the perfect dark and stormy red wine and chocolates read, it is very, very competently written. I've bagged off quite a few newer books recently for their writing being inadequate or not utilizing the English language very well. But like any person who themselves is a reader, I think Steffanie clearly demonstrates the fact that the English language is a playground that she is very, very competent at playing in. So there's lots of good description. You've got a wonderful bookshop to play in. You've got 3 incredibly hot guys, all of whom Mina is more than slightly interested in. And eventually there is a bit of sex scenes. And gotta say, not everyone can write a sex scene, but the ones in here are good. And what's more, there aren't too many of them. Nothing will turn you off the sexual element to a book more than it appearing on every page without any characters or plot or narrative. Not a problem here. Plot, yes. Narrative, yes. Characters, wonderful. Mina herself is wonderful. Maury is delightful. Love the Raven. He can come and visit anytime. I promise to never recite a single bit of the poem, which shall not be named. And as an added spice, because this book was a present, I've got a signed copy. Whatever you do, don't quote the poem. So this was the perfect Cyclone read. Thank you, Steffanie, for writing it. Thank you, Anna, for gifting it to me. Thank you to anyone who has watched this video, which is more full of praise and probably less full of reviewing than many of mine. But you've watched so far, so thank you very much. Like, comment, subscribe, and read good books, including this one, because really it is a very, very good book. Bye.